On today's show, it is all about a single scene of dialogue around a table in the movie Heat that does so much we could all learn from it, especially on the writing side, but even the directing side as well, and the acting side. I mean, the whole thing is a masterpiece. We're going to take a look at the scene where Al Pacino's character, Vincent, meets Robert De Niro's character, Macaulay, at dinner, and they have a conversation about what's going on in their lives and what they're trying to accomplish and why that scene is so pivotal. So let's jump into it. I've got notes here. I've got timestamps that we're going to look at specifically. Let's go ahead and take a look because this is one of the things that we can learn a lot from, because this is a phenomenal scene that's very simple. These guys are just eating dinner together. They actually don't do any eating, to be honest, but they are just hanging out. Now the conversation starts. We're not gonna watch the entire thing, but the conversation starts, and it's about sort of the facts of what's going on. It's kind of like small talk around dinner, but pretty soon Robert De Niro kind of points out, like, "Hey, what are we doing here? Are we just doing small talk? That seems kind of ridiculous to me." So let's go to. Actually, this is not the right scene, or is this the right scene? No, let me go to a different one. Sorry. Here, we'll go to this one.
I wear it for golf.
So it starts out small talk, and then Robert De Niro's character is kind of like, "Hey, look, why are we doing this? Like, small talk? I don't want to do small talk. Let's get somewhere else." So I'm going to start the scene at the 44-second mark, and we're going to go to about a minute mark here.
I am never going back. Then don't take down scores. I do what I do best. I take scores. You do what you do best, trying to stop guys like me.
Okay, so there you go. That tells us antagonists, protagonists, and what they're trying to accomplish. Robert De Niro's character is the protagonist. He has a goal. He wants to get the next score. The next score, by the way, I believe is robbing the bank at this point in the movie. The guy sitting across from him, Vincent, is the police officer, and he's going to try and prevent him from taking the next score and put him in jail. So you have antagonist, protagonist, and then Robert De Niro's character says something really important. "I'm not going back to jail." So the stakes are raised. I'm not letting you take me down, basically, is what he's saying to him, right? So let's fast forward a little bit more in this conversation. Again, you should watch the entire scene, because the entire scene is amazing. But I'm just going to try to hit some of the highlights here as we talk about what this looks like. So about the 1 minute, 30-second mark.
Because I spend all my time chasing guys like you around the block. That's my life.
Now, first of all, one of the reasons I wanted to show this scene is because watch the performance here. Watch the performance. It's not overdone. It is incredibly subtle what Al Pacino is doing here, and yet it's entirely powerful. So watch this again.
Because I spend all my time chasing guys like you around the block.
So you notice his eyes. He's saying, "I spend all my time chasing guys like you around," right? He shifts his eyes to be focused on. He's kind of like thinking about the thing and then saying, "No, I chase guys like you, and I'm resentful of it." Watch that again. Watch his eye movement here, which is insane. He's not looking at Robert De Niro's character.
Because I spend all my time chasing guys like you around.
Guys like you. Boom. Looks right at him. Super subtle, but incredibly powerful from an acting perspective, right? Let's keep going here, because the next part of this is fantastic too.
Guy told me one time, don't let yourself get attached to anything you are not willing to walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you feel the heat around the corner. Now, if you're around me and you got to move when I move, how do you expect to keep a marriage?
Now, this is interesting for a couple of reasons, because I read the script as well. Because I was kind of wondering to myself, like, are these guys just going totally off script, or are they breaking from the script at times to do sort of more of an improv thing? And that is really the only line. I mean, there's maybe a couple other things that are changed, really minor details, but that's one of the only things that has changed ever so slightly, is that he doesn't say, he sounds like he's going to start to say, "How do you expect to keep and then he says a marriage." That was not the line. The line was family. He was supposed to say family instead of marriage. He thought maybe it was relationship, and then he got tripped up. But it's great that Michael Mann chose that take and left that in there because it feels really natural that De Niro's doing that. So it just fits perfectly. He's stumbling over his words. It's kind of in my mind like from a directing perspective. Sometimes when somebody doesn't do something perfectly, it actually humanizes the entire scene and humanizes their character as it does with Robert De Niro. Because we all make mistakes. I mean, I've been doing live shows. When you do live shows, you fumble over your words all the time. You forget to say things you wish you could say. So fantastic performances there. But also what's going on here is, again, the conflict is these two guys are at opposite ends of the spectrum. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to stop you from doing it. And it's strangely intimate as in the next portion of this because they start to talk about like how they feel about the fact that they're doing these things, right? So I just thought that this was really great because what you get is you get Al Pacino's character saying, maybe you shouldn't do this anymore because I'm going to take you down. And then you get De Niro's character basically saying, like, good luck, pal. Like, you're not going to take me down. And it just sets up, if you look at the entire film and you say, what is this film all about? It starts to hint at what the premise of this film is. And so I'm going to talk about the premise when we get to the end, after we've seen a couple more of these clips. But it's just such a fantastic scene. Two people at a table, but the acting is so good and so compelling. And what the dialogue is back and forth from a writing perspective is so good that it just hooks us the entire time. So let's fast forward a little bit more here and see what else we've got in this scene that makes this scene so good.
So then if you spot me coming around that corner.
So if you spot me coming around that corner, he thinks about what he's going to say. So, okay, Al Pacino knows the lines. He's got the lines down pat, right? He knows exactly what he's going to say. The question is, how is he going to say it? And in this particular scene, he's kind of acts like he's trying to think of what he's going to say. He almost has a smile on his face a little bit too, like, hey, look, you and I have been having this conversation and we've kind of started to like each other, but obviously we are at odds with one another and we are in direct conflict with one another. So what exactly is going to happen here? So just brilliant. Like, let's go back. I'll play this section again. Watch what he's doing with his facial features and watch how he's reading the room before he says anything.
So then if you spot me coming around that corner, you're just gonna walk out on this woman? Not say goodbye?
So just to set this up a little bit more, Robert De Niro's character, Macaulay, had said, I have a woman too, and you got to be prepared to just leave when the heat gets too tough, right? That's why the movie's called Heat, by the way. Robert De Niro has this personal manifesto that he heard from somebody else in prison, and that is, when the heat gets too strong, you've got to just be able to get out, leave everybody behind, leave everything behind, and just get out. And that's how you survive as a criminal, basically. And so Al Pacino's character is questioning that, like, you're just going to be able to leave, like you're just going to be able to up and leave all the things that you have in life. You're just going to be able to do that, especially now that you say you have a woman, you're in a relationship. You're just going to be able to do that. And then he even tells him later on, he says that that's a pretty vacant way of looking at this.
That's the discipline.
And now when he says that's the discipline, here's what's really fascinating. And this is true of, if you go back to one of my videos I did on The Killer, which I love that movie. The Killer is such a good movie. If you look at The Killer has this mental model of how the world works, and he's constantly repeating that to himself over and over and over and over and over again. And in this scene, I think something is revealed that's really important to the overall premise of the film and how these characters are developing throughout the film. And that is, it asks the question, because the film's not over yet. And if you've seen the rest of the film, you know what the answer is. But it asks the question of, which one of these guys is being more realistic about what they're going to be able to do? Does Vincent, Al Pacino's character, is he really that tough that he's going to continue to go after bad guys at the expense of his family? Is that what he's about? Is he going to be able to do that? Is he going to be able to take down Macaulay, Robert De Niro's character? On the other hand, Robert De Niro is saying, hey, look, I'm heartless because that's what the job requires. That's the discipline of the job, is me being heartless. And so we get these two ideas of who these guys think they are. And the question then becomes, which one of them knows themselves better? Does Robert De Niro know himself? Does Al Pacino's character know himself? And how is that going to play out in the end of the movie? Just fantastic stuff from Michael Mann and these two actors. I'm going to fast forward just 5 seconds because we got this next line in here, which is this next part is awesome.
Both better go do something else, pal.
I don't know how to do anything else.
Neither do I.
I don't much want to either.
Neither do I.
Now, what's great about this is that, again, the intimacy of this scene is sort of surprising because this is kind of like a. I actually think this is really more of a Western-styled film than it is a heist-style film, but that's just because of the way that the personalities are playing with each other. But this then doubles down on how committed they are to what they're going to do, right? As the protagonist, De Niro is like, this is what I'm committed to. And as the antagonist, Al Pacino's character, Vincent, is saying, no, this is what I'm committed to. So we are at odds. We are not, even though we have become more intimate by understanding each other. They even talk about their dreams that they have. Even though we've become more intimate by getting to know one another a little bit better, we are still standing on business on either side of this conversation. We are not backing off from what we could be. All right, so let's go and fast forward through this last part of the clip. The next part of the clip is where they tell each other their dreams a little bit, and that gives us a little bit of a reveal of the emotions that are driving them, because the dreams are these recurring dreams that they have to go through over and over and over again. So it kind of tells us like what their mental model is for like why they're doing what they're doing. It's a little vague to them because they may not understand it fully, but that's also really good. Again, you should go watch this scene because this scene is amazing. Watch the entire movie, but the scene is fantastic. So here's the last clip that I'm going to play, then we'll break this down a little bit further.
You know, we're sitting here. You and I are like a couple of regular fellas. You do what you do, I do what I gotta do. And now that we've been face to face, if I'm there and I gotta put you away, I won't like it. But I'll tell you, if it's between you and some poor bastard whose wife you're gonna turn into a widow, brother, you are going down.
Now that is a masterclass of acting if I've ever seen it, right? like he knows how to ratchet up the performance ever so slightly in that end statement. You and I are sitting to get here together like a couple of regular guys. He kind of starts out like, "Hey, you and I are getting to know each other." Like, and I kind of like you, to be honest. Like you, in some ways, you and I are very similar to each other. We're dedicated to a thing that we wish we weren't dedicated to. It actually is damaging to our lives and our relationships. But man, if you're gonna do this, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna take you down, right? Like that is. And the way he delivers it is so earnest and yet honest. We instantly believe him. We're like, yeah, I believe this guy. And notice how neither of these actors feel the need to like ramp it up to 100 at any point in time in this whole scene. The subtlety of the scene and the fact that they can have a somewhat intimate conversation about what's going on in their lives and yet keep the intensity really, really high because we know what they're basically saying to each other, is I can't be somebody else. This is me, and this is what I do. And they don't need to be angry to say that. They don't need to be emotional and crying to say that. They just can say it the way that they're supposed to say it. So I think this scene is really phenomenal. Highly recommend that you go and watch it. The last thing I want to talked about how great the acting is. We saw some really specific examples. Hi, Allie. Thanks for dropping into the live show. Appreciate you. If you have any questions, by the way, just go ahead and leave me questions in the comments. Happy to answer them. But the other thing that this does, that this scene does, is it really nails the premise. What is the premise? This comes from a book called The Art of Dramatic Writing by Leo Segre, and I think it's a phenomenal book, and I think you should read it. It's a fairly old book, but you can find it on Amazon. The premise of this film is obsession leads to ruin. That's my definition of the premise. Michael Mann didn't tell me that. But the reason why I say that, that's the premise of this movie, is because you have these two characters who are driven to do a thing at the expense of everything else around them, right? Robert De Niro he's going to commit crimes, and that's the way he's chosen to live. Al Pacino's character has chosen to be a police officer, detective, and prevent people like Macaulay from getting away with things. And so the question is, how will this story end up? And the premise plays itself out. The premise plays itself out. Watch the movie. It's amazing. It's a great movie. So the premise of this film is captured in this scene as well, which means, what is the premise ultimately telling us? The premise is telling us about the truth of the shared human experience. So the truth of the shared human experience in this movie is that becoming obsessed with something, a job and a task to accomplish, can actually ruin everything else around us, our relationships, our jobs, all of these things, right? So the premise is showcased here as well. So you got amazing acting, fantastic writing, antagonist, protagonist, explaining to each other in a very intimate and yet guarded way about why they see the world the way that they see it, which also ramps up the tension for us because neither one is going to back down. And then you have the premise work itself into this particular scene as well. All just two people talking at a table. It is one of the best ways to do a dialogue scene that I think I've seen. Any questions, any comments, leave them down below. If I don't get to them like in a video like this, it is a live show, so I can always answer like live if you leave me a question. Sometimes I get so wrapped up in watching the scene that I don't see the comments, but you can always ask me a question, and sometimes I can actually create another live show just about your question. So if you have a really great question and I like it, I'll make a whole video about it. So anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next live show. Thanks for dropping in, and go watch Heat if you haven't seen it in a while. It's amazing. Bye.